Today, we're diving into the personal journals of one of history's most legendary explorers to relive a moment of pure, absolute terror. This isn't just a story about survival. It's a story written by the man himself, David Livingstone, about the day he was literally in the jaws of a lion.
Springing upon me. Just try to imagine that. The chaos of a hunt, the noise, the adrenaline, and then everything just sharpens into one single horrifying point of focus. Those are Livingstone's own words, and they pull us right into that heart-stopping second. But you have to wonder, how on earth did a missionary, a doctor, find himself hunting lions in the first place? To really understand that lion attack, you first have to understand the man. I mean, who was David Livingstone? What was it that drove him to leave the relative safety of 19th century Britain and venture into the vast, uncharted interior of Africa?
So here he is. This is the man at the center of it all. And look, he wasn't a soldier, he wasn't some big game hunter. He was a doctor and a missionary from Scotland. He went to Africa on a mission of faith, to heal people. But Africa, well, Africa would demand a whole lot more from him than he could have ever possibly imagined.
And his journey started long before he ever set foot on a boat. I mean, think about this. At just 10 years old, he's working grueling 14-hour days in a cotton mill. But instead of collapsing at the end of the day, he'd prop a book on his machine and study. That incredible drive is what pushed him through medical school, through theology, and eventually got him a spot with the London Missionary Society on a ship headed for Africa.
So when Livingstone arrives in Africa, he's facing a lot more than just a new landscape. He's stepping into a world with ancient traditions, powerful beliefs, and it sets the stage for a massive clash of cultures.
Life here was hard. I mean, incredibly precarious. A brutal drought had its grip on the land, and it just wouldn't let go. Livingstone comes in offering prayer as the solution, but the Bakwain people, well, they had their own ways, their own ancient traditions, like the powerful rituals of the rain doctor. And this created a really deep and fascinating conflict.
And this right here, this just perfectly captures the standoff. From Livingstone's perspective, the rain doctor's methods were just superstition. But the rain doctor's reply was so sharp, so logical. He basically said, look, we're both doctors. You use your medicine to heal a person, I use mine to heal the land. We both pray for it to work. You see, it wasn't just a simple disagreement, it was two entirely different worldviews colliding head-on.
You know, even the local leader, Chief Sechele, was completely torn. He was really drawn to what Livingstone was teaching. He even learned to read, he studied the Bible. But to fully convert meant he had to abandon some of his culture's most basic practices, like having multiple wives, which wasn't just a personal choice. It was tied into the whole political and social fabric of his tribe. This quote just shows you the incredible bind he was in.
So, in the middle of all this cultural and spiritual tension, a new threat appears. And this one isn't about the soul, it's about survival. It was a physical danger that was about to force this missionary to pick up a gun and become a hunter. Okay, this was just terrifying. Lions are typically nocturnal hunters, right? But this pride had become incredibly bold. They were attacking in broad daylight, showing zero fear of people. The village of Mabatsa was essentially under siege. Their entire livelihood, their cattle, was being slaughtered right in front of them.
Livingstone knew something had to be done, so he put together a plan. It's a classic hunting strategy, really. You form a big circle of people around the small hill where the lions are hiding. Then everyone slowly walks forward, tightening the circle, until the lions have no choice but to break cover and run. And that's when you take the shot. It seems like a solid, organized approach to a very deadly problem.
But it didn't work. Not at all. As the circle of men closed in, the lions charged. And faced with the raw, terrifying power of these predators, the line of hunters just broke. They were terrified. The lions burst right through and escaped without a scratch. And you can just imagine the fear in the village now. They were back to square one, but even more desperate.
And this is it. This is the moment where everything changes. They go out for a second attempt to hunt these lions, and this time, Livingstone comes face to face with one of the very beasts that's been terrorizing the village.
So he sees one of them, perched on a rock about 30 yards away. He takes careful aim. Bam! He fires both barrels. The other men start cheering. They think it's all over, that the lion's dead.
But as Livingstone is trying to reload his gun, he hears a shout, a warning. He turns around, and the wounded lion is charging right at him.
You can just feel the sheer violence in those words, the crushing weight, the sound growling horribly close to my ear. And that image, he shook me as a terrier dog does a rat. It's just so visceral. But in this moment of pure terror, something absolutely incredible happened inside his mind.
He describes entering a state called a stupor. It's like a trance induced by shock, where all the normal feelings of pain and fear just get switched off. And this just shows you the mind of the man. Even while he's literally in the jaws of a lion, the doctor in him is still working, observing his own condition, analyzing what's happening to him. He felt no pain, no terror, just this dreaminess. He actually theorized it was a kind of merciful feature of shock, like what a mouse feels when it's caught by a cat, numbing the horror of the final moments. It's unbelievable.
So there Livingstone is, pinned to the ground, helpless. And his companion, a man named Mibale, does something incredibly brave. He runs up and fires at the lion. His gun misfires. The lion immediately leaves Livingstone, turns and attacks Mibale, biting his thigh. Then another man runs in with a spear, and the lion turns on him. Only then, finally, did the beast, which had been mortally wounded by Livingstone's first 2 shots, finally collapse and die.
The attack itself was over in just a few terrifying moments, but the consequences, well, they would last for the rest of his life. This brutal encounter was going to leave a mark on David Livingstone, both physically and, you have to imagine, symbolically. 11, that's the number. 11 tooth marks the lion left embedded in his upper arm, a permanent, grisly trophy from his brush with death. The damage was catastrophic. His own words were that the bone was crunched into splinters. It was so badly damaged that it never healed correctly. Instead, it created what he called a false joint, which meant he could never again raise that arm high enough to properly aim and fire a rifle. In that one moment, his life as a hunter was over for good. And that scar, that mangled arm, became part of his legend. In fact, decades later, when his body was finally returned to England from Africa, it was that specific injury that they used to officially identify him. So you have to ask, did staring into the jaws of death break him? No. It seems like it forged him. It's almost as if it burned away any fear he had left and prepared him for the decades of unbelievable hardship and incredible discovery that would come to define his life. It's just a powerful reminder that sometimes our deepest wounds become the source of our greatest strength.